News West 9 has been making road trips all over West Texas. Some of our trips in the past few months, the ghost town of Terlingua, the Monahans Sandhills, and taking a look at the history of Stanton. We even checked out the Carlsbad Caverns in nearby New Mexico and took a look at the phenomenon of West Texas football. We also went live in Big Spring, Pecos, Fort Stockton, and Alpine. If you missed any of our Uniquely West Texas, we are going to be showing a recap in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. It starts tonight at 6:30.
Well, summertime is the perfect time to get out of town and spend some time on the road. That's exactly what News West 9 did, and we took you along with us. Throughout Uniquely West Texas, we showed you different places that make great day or even weekend trips. We even made a few detours into New Mexico because our friends to the west have some pretty cool places also. Now, for the next 30 minutes, we're going to take a look back at all the places that we went to. Welcome to the Uniquely West Texas Summer Recap. Our first stop was the furthest trip, all the way down to the Terlingua ghost town. Abandoned homes and ruins make it seem as if all the people who lived there just got up and left, which is pretty much what happened. Now, back when the mining industry hit a huge boom, around 2,000 people lived in Terlingua. The town was founded by Howard Perry, who discovered mercury here and even developed the mining industry in the area. This is the largest mercury mine in North America and one of the largest the world had ever seen. Now, when the price of mercury dropped after the war in the early 1940s, the mines were shut down.
So after it closed, Mr. Perry that owned the mine pretty much said, we're closed. Everybody out of the mines, you've lost your job, town's closed.
Now, as for those who stayed, many passed away from the influenza outbreak in 1918. Until this day, if you do stop by the cemetery, then you'll notice some crosses even dating back to 1903. Bill Ivy is now the owner of the former mining town. His father first moved to the area to settle in the 1920s. If you pass through, you'll notice Howard Perry's mansion that overlooks the town. Over time, of course, West Texas weather brought the structure to ruins, but Ivy decided something needed to be done with it.
As much in keeping with the ghost town as we possibly could without changing the footprint of it, since it's such a landmark. My challenge was to blend mansion and ruin, and it's been a wonderful, fun experience.
Now, of course, there's no mining here anymore, but if there's one thing that does stay rich, it is Terlingua's history. Now, like I said earlier, we did take a few detours to our neighboring state. The first is about a 3-hour drive from Midland and Odessa. Now, nestled in the ground near Roswell, you'll find the Bottomless Lakes State Park. It's made up of 8 sinkhole lakes, with the 2 deepest lakes reaching down to an amazing 90 feet. They were formed by circulating underground water, and then it ate away the salt and gypsum to form caverns. Eventually, the roof of these caverns were too heavy and then collapsed in on themselves. So this actually formed the sinkholes, which filled with water, leaving us with the lakes that we see today. So they're not exactly bottomless. So why are they called bottomless? Well, in the early 1800s, cowboys would fish at the lakes, but they could never find the bottom. And yes, there is still fishing at a few of those lakes, plus swimming and paddleboarding and hiking if you like to do that. And they do have campsites that are available, but you'll have to reserve those online. Now, we still have plenty of places to look back on. You're watching News West 9's Uniquely West Texas Summer Recap. It's a hidden gem in West Texas. Now, when you go there, the only limit to your next great adventure is your imagination and maybe the heat. Now, the Monahans Sandhills State Park is about 5 miles outside of Monahans, right off Interstate 20. If you decide to go, rangers suggest getting there a little early in the morning or in the evening if you want to avoid the heat. Now, not only does this keep you from overheating, but it actually helps you slide down the sand dunes. And here's a fun fact that you may not know. The park is also home to the biggest oak forest in the world.
We're part of the shin oaks. It doesn't look like they're actual trees, but they are. I think being in the largest oak forest in the world out in West Texas is a pretty special reason to visit Monahans.
The park has campsites available with water and electricity. You're going to want to reserve those ahead of time. Well, here's our second and the last of our detours. The Carlsbad Caverns is a unique oasis. Located thousands of feet below the ground, they offer unique experiences that you can't get to compared to other national parks.
The bats, our most famous resident in Carlsbad Caverns National Park. They all come out of the opening that we see here. Our most famous population is the Brazilian freetails that we have, and they make up the largest portion of the colony that exists here.
Now, the caverns are home to a gorgeous array of structures, worn away and reformed after years and years of water erosion. So if you're looking for a more intense cave diving experience, you can go for a ranger guided tour, or you can get back a county permit for some of the more difficult caves. Now, outside of the caverns, there are also hiking and camping opportunities if you're into that. So if you're looking for inspiration or adventure, Carlsbad Caverns might be the perfect place for you. Our whole crew got to join in on the fun for the next West Texas spots. We're going to take a look at that next. You're watching the Uniquely West Texas Summer Recap. As part of News West 9's road trip, we took the whole crew out to 4 events. So this gave us the opportunity to explore and truly be a part of our community. The first stop was in Big Spring for the Fantastic Fourth, so we had so much fun dancing to the music and stopping by some of the local vendors. We even got a little tour of the Hotel Settles right across the street. And when it comes to the name of this city, Big Spring, it actually carries a lot of historical significance. It's actually named after the historic spring that has been around for thousands of years. News West 9's Dana Morris has the story.
While these days the historic spring site is preserved for its views of nature, a trip through time as told by Tammy Schreckengast, the director of Big Spring's Heritage Museum, reveals a much different picture.
Well, of course, the first settlers were the Comanche, and they used to camp at the Big Spring, and they called it their playground because they could swim and enjoy the beautiful views of the spring.
The water of the spring not only attracted the Comanche and their main food source, buffalo, but eventually brought American settlers.
Captain Marcy first discovered the springs on October 3rd, 1849. He was an explorer and discovered these different areas.
After Captain Marcy spread word of the spring, more Americans followed, particularly a group of hunters that would change life for the Comanche as they knew it.
Comanche were forced to their reservations because of the buffalo hunter, because that was their main source of food.
All this giving way to new types of settlers at the spring.
The railroad came through and owned all this land, purchased all this land ahead of time, and they were the largest landholder in this area.
Starting with a tent city, life at the Big Spring expanded fast and grew rough.
Big Spring had like 13 saloons at the time when it first opened. When it was first established, because of the cowboys coming to town and wanting to drink. It was a rough town at that time, rowdy, lots of killings, shootings.
But once railroad tracks were laid and businesses continued to grow, a more woolly city life developed.
And then when the railroad finally established train service, the tents were picked up and brought downtown and built around this downtown area, the railroad depot.
A no longer lawless land, Big Spring gave rise to some West Texas culture icons, including artist Harold Kaler, famous for his paintings of West Texas, and the famous woman bull rider, Wacy Cathy. And of course, the development of Big Spring produced an environment ripe for the oil boom.
Big Spring really had the oil boom in 1928-29, and as well a building boom. And that's when the Settles Hotel was built, the petroleum building. A lot of the Big Spring skyscrapers were built at that time period.
A time where structures that would stand the test of time were built, and the humble beginnings of a modern city were started, all thanks to the fresh water of a historic spring. In Big Spring, Dana Morris, News West 9.
Well, after Big Spring, we all decided to take a short break to celebrate Independence Day, and then we headed to the home of the Pecos Cantaloupes. Yes, it's Pecos. Now, that was for the Honda car show and concert, so just being able to see the cars made it worth the trip. So while we were there, we decided to learn more about the town. We stopped by the west of the Pecos Museum. If you've never been there, you definitely should make the trip. They have such unique exhibits and such a rich history. So this is especially true if you're a fan of the rodeo. Our next stop was in Fort Stockton for the Water Carnival. It's an event that means a lot to the community, so we definitely had to stop by and experience the synchronized swimming and dancing, and of course the pageants. Now, we were able to chat with the women who wrote the scripts for this year's show. They say it was about the pool magically being fixed, so this isn't far from the truth. Now, last year they couldn't have the Water Carnival because the pool needed some repairs. Now, we know the community is super proud of this event, and the people were so happy that this event was able to happen this year. Now, we're told part of that is because a big city wouldn't have something like this. So talk about small town pride for the win. Now, the Water Carnival is a wonderful way to spend a weekend. Our next stop is equally as exciting, especially if you're a big fan of music. Now, we spent some time at the Holland Hotel in Alpine for the Viva Big Band Music Festival. Now, this was so much fun. Not only did we get to listen to fantastic music the whole time we were there, we were able to meet several interesting people from the area. Now, one of those is a local who not only plays guitar, but he also makes them and then he sells them to some pretty famous people. News West 9's Sammy Steele tells us all about it.
Michael Stevens was born a cowboy, but since 1967, his profession has been hand-making guitars.
Grew up on a horse farm, and so you're always, back then, building trucks and trailers and stalls, and that was pretty rough work. But then when I got to high school, I fell into the wood shop.
He primarily makes electric guitars, basses, and mandolins, and has made guitars for artists like Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray, Jimmy Vaughn, and many, many more.
And he'd move that cigarette and he'd play a few lines of that and just look at you and nod his head and walk on stage with your guitar.
For Stevens, each guitar he's made, he's put his blood, sweat, and tears into.
Well, there's a lot of soul in a handmade guitar that isn't in a factory guitar. You look at one of these and you're not going to see a line or a detail on here that I didn't look at, think about, and put where it is.
The process for making guitars isn't easy and is incredibly time-consuming.
I get maybe 10 when I'm building these, and sometimes different models. Some are a little quicker because they're plainer.
Stevens and the love of his life for 50 years, Alice, never had any children. But for Stevens, guitars are his legacy.
They're like your children in a way, you know. And you don't know where they're going to go and what's going to happen with them. And you're really intent on it, and you send them off. And to see them achieve something and do something and be used.
2016, his wife Alice passed away from the battle with ALS. But she's still with him in spirit, moving him to make guitars every day, one string at a time.
She was my inspiration for my life, pretty much. Everything I have in this whole property and being here and accomplishing everything I've done, she's underneath it, you know.
And she's in every guitar Steven makes. While he waits for the next time he can two-step with his wife, Steven says he's taking life one guitar at a time. In Alpine, Sammy Steele, News West 9.
We have plenty more summer fun. We're going to be right back after the break. Between Big Spring and Midland, there is a small community that embodies the spirit of West Texas. Stanton is known for friendly people and a few sore heads. Now, the town started as a railroad stop in 1881 called Grelton. The first settlers were a group of German Catholic friars that came from Arkansas. They wanted to start a monastery for young priests, and then they renamed the town Marianfeld in 1885. As more people made their way to the town, a group of school children voted to once again change the town's name from Grelton to Marianfeld, and then finally in 1890 to Stanton. Now, the town continued to grow with ranching and farming as the dominant economic activities until 1951, when the Stanton oil field went into production. By 1990, the population had grown from 5 men to 2,302 people. A number that continues to grow till this day. But one thing that hasn't changed as time passes by is the friendly people of Stanton.
One of the things that impressed me when I first moved here 18 years ago was that you could drive down the street and everybody would wave. You'd pass other cars, they'd wave. You'd pass somebody on the sidewalk, they'd wave. And they still do that. So I think that's kind of cool.
Now today you could find a piece of Stanton's story in the Martin County Historical Museum. It's a rich history in a town that's easy to miss, but definitely uniquely West Texas. Well, you have less than 2 weeks to enjoy this next place. The Baumer State Park and Spring Pool is a hidden oasis in the middle of West Texas. Now, the park was developed during the FDR administration by the Civilian Conservation Corps. They enclosed the spring that was already there and then built the pool. Now, the spring is where 15 million gallons of water comes up from underground aquifers. If you ever head out there, then you're free to jump off the high dive or even scuba dive down to 25 feet deep in the crystal clear water. And I gotta say, it's so much fun. You will still be able to swim through fish though, even a few endangered species of aquatic animals.
We would like to make sure that people know that they can help protect them by not feeding them. Human food is really very unhealthy for wildlife. And then also by not catching them, because we have in the past had some people think it was okay to catch the fishes. It's not okay at the park to catch the fishes.
And if you're interested in going, you better hurry because the park will close again in less than 2 weeks. Crews are going to be installing a new septic system, plus their hotel and campground is in the process of being renovated. Well, we've made it through most of our summer trips, but right after the break, it's time for a new season. Stay tuned. Well, as we are winding down our summer season, it's time for a new one to begin. Now, some say this is the best season. And all we know, if West Texas does high school football like no one else, News West 9's Stanton Carriel will dive into the tradition and culture that makes West Texas football so unique.
We get better. We get better. Play by play. Play by play. We get stronger. We get stronger. Team.
What is West Texas football?
That won't be beat. That won't be beat.
It's like one of the seasons, winter, summer, spring, or fall. When football season rolls around, people in the community get excited. And I think that's really what's neat about West Texas football is that you got these small towns that rally around the kids in their community and the different organizations.
I just think about a hard nose, hard work, grit, never quit, never give up. It's a passion. It's a culture, and you know, it's that rich tradition of great football that's been around for years and years.
People that they love and they're passionate about their teams, and the difference that sets us aside is how physical a football brand we play out here.
Friday nights in the fall are all about tradition, culture, and community.
I get excited about the cheerleaders. I get excited about the run-through signs, trying for a district win and then a state. Oh, the playoff games are such fun to go to.
It's an event. A football game is an event in West Texas. You know, a lot of the towns, I mean, you can't find anybody in town.
It instills a small town pride. The stands are full, doesn't matter how big or small the town is. And I love the camaraderie, and the whole town comes out. I can't imagine doing anything else on Friday night.
With every football season comes a chance to write your name in history. And here in West Texas, it's all about the rivalries.
You pull up in the bus and you see the tailgaters out in the parking lot, and you know this is important to people in our community when they're going to do that, to come out and watch a high school football game. That's pretty awesome.
I think it's important. I think when you grow up, you know, in these two towns, you know, Odessa and Midland, you know, you want to be a Rebel, you want to be a Bulldog, you want to be a Bronco, you want to be a Panther. I believe that's part of it.
I know here in Odessa, one side of town's red, the other side of town's black. You got police escorts, you know, escorting teams to the stadium. You got motorcycles escorting the Odessa Broncos to the stadium. And when you get there, the electricity that you feel in the stadium is just unmatched.
See the crowd of 20,000 people, and I really hadn't experienced that before. Even at, you know, I've been at bigger venues and things like that, at NRG in Houston and things like that. But to see just the passion, people sitting on the grass. When you drive up, everybody's, you know, tailgating. You got everybody barbecuing and everything else. So that was that first year of us being here and seeing 20,000 people packed in Ratliff was a great scene.
I still get butterflies just talking about it because I can remember when I was in high school and we played Midland Lee, and they played our game on TV instead of the World Series. Midland Lee versus Odessa Permian.
It means something. We've all played each other so many years. The rivalries are so great, you know, that everybody knows everybody and, you know, wants to beat everybody. And it's that way in the smaller divisions up through, you know, our class.
From one town to the next, pure passion and love of the game is the core of West Texas football.
July is just a special month. You'll drive by the football field at 7 o'clock at night. You'll see kids out there practicing. You'll see little kids coming out putting their helmets on. It's 100 degrees outside. The turf's got, you know, heat waves coming off of it, and you can tell the passion of the kids, the work ethic that our kids go through. I just don't think there's anywhere else in society that young men work the way they work to play Texas high school football.
You go to Fort Sands, you go to Andrews, you go to Greenwood, you go anywhere in West Texas, and you can rob the bank on game night. I mean, the cops aren't. I mean, they're out of town, especially small towns. You know, small towns, they're holding on every inch, every second how they're going to be. One thing about West Texas is people will take their shirt off their back to help you. But on Friday night, they're going to draw a line in the sand, and there's going to be a winner and loser, and they're picking teams. So you want to be on the winning side.
It's a culture. I mean, you learn at a very young age that, you know, this is what I want to do when I grow up. You know, I want to be an Odessa High Bronco, or, you know, an Andrews Mustang, or a Crane Golden Crane. You know, you just want to be one of those players.
The legends of my dad, my uncle, my brother, all that stays here. And so it's just a special, you know, we're kind of out here by ourselves, kind of away from the rest of Texas. And so you have your West Texas legends, and you have West Texas heroes and things like that. So to me, it's the best thing in Texas. It's West Texas football.
Well, are you ready for some high school football? Because we are.
I know we are for sure. We actually have our first game time preview tonight on News West 9 at 10, and we'll have another preview tomorrow night with a couple of good scrimmages out there. So that'll be good. But the first game time and overtime kicks off next Friday, August 30th, here on News West 9 at 10.
Yes, and don't forget there's also going to be overtime, right?
Yes, and overtime is a digital show that will air purely on our website, on Facebook. You can catch it on Roku, Twitter, the whole works, and that'll be 10 minutes after game time. So after game time shuts off, feel free to open your phones, turn overtime on, and we will have much more excitement in store.
So really no excuse for you to miss it. We're going to have it everywhere.
Oh yeah, and we've got a lot of fun things in store, so you really don't want to miss it. We are covering a lot all over the Permian Basin.
Well, the time has come. We are so excited for game time, and just stay tuned. We're going to have all the updates on newswest9.com, and we'll see you at 10.